What's going on YouTube? Langdon here with Arch Films. We got another movie to talk about. Last night with the family, watched The Assistant, directed by Kitty Green. Kitty Green's got a lot to say in this movie. It's very good. Let's talk about it. Alright, so The Assistant, directed by Kitty Green. Up until this point, she has not really ventured into the realm of traditional filmmaking. She has a few documentaries under her belt, but this is kind of her debut into fictional storytelling through film. And so the movie's starring Julia Garner, who you might remember from Ozark. She plays Ruth Langmore, and she's fantastic in that TV series. Definitely recommend it. So in this movie, you follow her character throughout a day at the office, and the movie is kind of about a process of like revealing little bits and pieces about her character over time, and then also revealing little bits and pieces about her boss over time. Her character is supposedly named Jane, but I don't ever remember seeing her name or hearing her name at all in the movie. And I think that's the point, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But this movie is all about putting the viewer in her shoes and seeing things from her point of view. And so in that regard, it's a movie about small difficulties. Like in the opening couple of shots, I just remember that she's getting down her coffee cup to make herself coffee in the morning. But since she's short and her cup is not in the front row, she has to move somebody else's coffee mug, reach up and grab her own before she can make her coffee, and then put the other mug back. And it's like little tiny things like that over and over and over in this movie. So I saw in the trailer they have a little quote from a review, and it says "Death by 1,000 cuts," and I think that is so true for the feeling of watching this movie, and also true for the thematic material of this movie. So yeah, the movie is absolutely riveting. I found myself just glued to the screen, and there's so much tension created, and there's a couple of main tools that Kitty Garner does use, or mixing names here, that Kitty Green uses to create that sense of tension. For one, editing. 2, shot composition, and 3, music. So as far as the editing goes, I mean, it's like, it almost feels repetitive, but there's a little bit of a build to it, but it's kind of repetitive, but not in a bad way, because the whole movie is about this repeated, this repeated sense of small difficulties. But some of those difficulties start to build in the story so that it's leading somewhere. So, in the way that the film is paced, it's very consistent, and there's not a lot of variation to it, but you still get a sense of a build because of kind of what starts to happen in the story. And it's all about some of the details, especially like she's got these different phone calls that she has over the course of the film that are really important, but it's muffled and you have to really listen close. This movie asks a lot of the viewer. In order to understand what's going on and to really get the depth of it and to understand how this character is feeling. So the next thing being shot composition. It's always focusing on the little tough things that she's doing. Again, small difficulties is what this film is about. So she's cutting open a package. So you get an overhead view, and she's cutting open the package, but you see it kind of catch on the cardboard. She has to go move the knife farther out so that she can cut it. Or when she's opening up a package of water bottles, and so she's got to cut that and kind of like reach in and rummage around to pull a water bottle out of that plastic packaging and things like that. And I mentioned earlier with the coffee mug, and it's always focused on that. Within the frame throughout this film, it's either on her hands that are like touching something or showing the stupid, annoying little thing that she's having to deal with in that stupid little task that she is so overqualified for, or it's her in the center of the frame while she's on one of these phone calls or doing one of these other minute tasks. And so in that sense, because she is in the frame so much, Julia Garner really carries this film. She is absolutely tremendous. You can read the stress on her face at all times through the movie. You can see it in her body language. She's trying to be demure, respectful, but she's just kind of downtrodden because she's in one of these entry-level jobs at this company that she's working for, which is a film company. Last thing that kind of really kept me glued to the screen was the music, or the lack thereof. There's a little bit of music at the beginning of the film, and there's a little bit of music at the end of the film, in like the opening and closing 20 seconds. And that's it. That helps to create so much tension, because I'm just like waiting for a little lull or something where she's going to be walking around and we'll get a little music, some kind of filler, almost like in between scenes. But that's just not how this movie works. It's just relentless and like little annoying task after a little annoying task that she has to do over the course of the day. One of the really interesting things about these little annoying tasks that she has is it really paints a picture of her boss. And her boss is an absolute dirtbag. And so are many of the men that she works with. And that kind of, it really gets into the theme of this movie, which has to do with equality in the workplace, but showing it through the film industry, which we know as with the Me Too movement is particularly horrendous. And so she's working for this big producer, and we see him once in the film, maybe. It's kind of hinted that it's him that she's with in this elevator ride, and that's it. That's all that you see of him. But you get this really clear picture of his character through her picking up after him and taking care of his dirty laundry, literally and figuratively, and over the course of this movie. I mean, you grow to hate him so much from her experience that you see through her eyes, and that's just so well done. So yeah, I was just really impacted by this film and the way that it's relentless in pushing its point. Society would have us think that she's kind of at the bottom of the ladder in this office because of her position as an assistant. But really, you see over the course of the film that it's because she's a woman. And she's not one of these knockout actresses that this producer is constantly working with. She's very normal. She finds herself at the bottom of the social ladder, and it's just like being mistreated in lots of little tiny ways, but it stacks up over the course of the film. This is not a film that you zone out and put on and enjoy. This is a film that's making a statement, and this is a film that demands that you listen. So I highly recommend it, but I highly recommend it for a day when you are feeling like really paying attention to a movie, because you're not gonna enjoy it or get much out of it if you're not in that mindset going in. But yeah, The Assistant, pretty stellar. See you in the next one.